Hello and welcome to AZ-900 Microsoft Azure Fundamentals Training Series. In this session, we will dive into an important topic, the Azure Management Infrastructure, to understand the logical architecture and organization of Azure. My name is Bilel MAROUEN. I'm Azure Solutions Architect and Microsoft Certified Trainer. Let's get started. So, think of resources like the building blocks of Azure. There can be any resource you can create or you provision, like a virtual network, a virtual machine, a web application, or a SQL database. These resources are managed independently, and you can create multiple instances of them. So, like creating multiple VMs, one for the front and one for the back, and you can still able to manage them independently, like having different SKU for each virtual machine or have different settings for each resource. And most importantly, all resources provisioned into Azure should have a location specified. And this location could be either a region specific, one of the 60 available regions at the time of recording this video, or could be as well a global resource. And as an example, we can take the traffic manager, which is a global resource not tied to any region. Next, we move to the second management layer, which are the resource groups. And resource groups are logical containers that hold related Azure resources. They will help you organize your resources for simpler management and billing. A resource group can include resources of different types and locations, allowing you flexibility while remaining well organized. And most importantly, each resource must be created into one and single resource group. So we cannot have the same resource into different resource groups. And another interesting point is that we cannot have nested resource group, which means we cannot create a resource group within another one. Now, the great thing about resource groups is lifecycle management. When your project ends or is no longer needed, you can delete a resource group, and all resources in it will also be deleted. No more worrying about leaving unused service running, saving costs and efforts. And another interesting feature is that for some resources, you will have the ability to move them into a different resource group. Moving one step higher, let's talk about subscriptions. Another subscription groups together multiple resource groups and all resources that you have provisioned. Your Azure subscription is your primary billing boundary. Microsoft generates invoices based on the subscription level. Also serves as a security boundary by managing the access through role-based access control. You may want separate subscriptions for different departments, billing distinction, or isolated application environments. For example, you could have a subscription for production environment and a second one for development and testing environments. One practical scenario I often see is using subscriptions to separate billing for different business units or departments. Imagine you are a large organization with finance and marketing teams. By assigning each team its own subscription, you can individually monitor and manage its specific cloud costs and governance. And now let's move on to the higher management level in Azure, which are the management groups. Using management groups, this will allow you to organize multiple subscriptions into logical hierarchies. For instance, let's have a look at this hierarchy, which is following the well architected framework of Azure. And as you can see, at the first layer, we will find the default management group. The default management group is not a manageable instance or layer in Azure, as we cannot apply a role based access control or a policies at this layer. That's why we create our first layer. Here we call it Contoso. This is the company name. Then we can create nested management groups. This will help us organize properly our workloads into different categories or business units or type of subscriptions. For example, here we might need to create a management group for our sandbox application. So the logic here is the subscription types, as this kind of subscription are usually dedicated for poking or testing some applications, and they are usually as well not connected to the remaining part of our hierarchy. That's why we create a dedicated management group to isolate them. The same thing for the decommissioned applications. So here We have a dedicated management group which requires some specific regulations or archiving policies. Then we have another type of management, like having a management group by management team, like one dedicated for identity team and then another one for network team. That way, we can manage effectively our resources and subscriptions according to the team working on that workloads more efficiently. And last, our application could have a specific way of organization, like a management group dedicated only for SAP workloads. Then we can split private applications from online applications which require more attention as they are exposed to internet, so maybe more security layers and so on. Another interesting point is inheritance. In Azure, we have the inheritance from top to bottom. So if we apply, for example, an airbag uh, here, an airbag of owner at this level, this will be inherited at all layers. So that's why it's really important to think of when you design your application where to assign the policies and at which level you will assign role-based access control according to your organization, teams management, billing centers, and everything. Let's quickly recap what we have covered. Resources are the basic Azure infrastructure elements such as VMs, storage, or databases. Then resource groups let us organize and handle related resources efficiently. Then subscriptions offer a clear security, access, and billing boundaries. And we finish with the management groups that help us manage subscriptions at scale by applying policies and ensuring compliance. So, understanding resources, resource groups, subscriptions, and management groups form a solid foundation for your Azure knowledge. These concepts help you keep your Azure management and environment organized, secure, and cost efficient. In our next video, we will continue exploring other core Azure concepts and help you further develop your Azure knowledge. Make sure to hit subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Thank you again for joining our AZ-900 training series. Until next time, happy learning, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.